a transparent contradiction that lightly proclaims a lie, a cage in which I am trapped. Logic is already a crystalline body that contains irony. The moment I realize that contradiction is not incongruity, but structure, the world emerges once by the bleaching of meaning itself. Transparently, it still holds the invisible. In other words, irony is always held at the neck in the form of a transparent blade, a smile. Aloof, it is the sorcerer who smothers the self and leaves it to the wind. They spread their wings of faith and skepticism but never fly. They just pretend to fall and rise and pretend to sink and shine. In this playful trajectory, we see sincerity, without knowing that it is the greatest dishonesty. My thoughts are a melody, dancing in mockery of the air of silence. No, I stand still, pretending to dance. Irony is a monologue that always speaks with the mask of the other, and when its voice resonates the most, it is the spectator who believes it to be true, who is the most trapped. So, aloof, reeling, and captive, he turns to the wind and laughs silently. Like leaves of speech dancing in the wind, it appears aloof. Deep within the polished crystal, it shines with a clear light, a trace of elusive existence drifting between humor and resignation. Gravity because of its lightness, a labyrinth of transparency. The gaze that looks at the world obliquely is too sharp and too comfortable. All things are relativized and the pyramid of meaning becomes a tower on the sand. Absolutes and other such frivolous things are nothing more than faded jokes in front of this luminous filter. Earnestness is a synonym for ridiculousness. Passion is a rhetoric of self-deception. Words become elaborate costumes to hide one's true feelings, and silence becomes laconic irony. We see through the trickery and gloat over it. Like a spectator who has found the strings of a puppet, the aloof spirit seems to enjoy the freedom of not being attached to anything. But in fact, it is fixated on one thing, not being attached to anything. Fearful of taking root in the earth, it avoids letting itself be carried away by the torrent of emotions. The lucid intellect deconstructs, analyzes, and reduces everything to its constituent elements. A beautiful anatomy. But there is no longer the warmth of life. Self-awareness is like thin ice that shatters when touched. This cage is transparent to the end. It is airy to the end. Therefore, even the feeling of being trapped is sometimes a source of self-mockery. While boasting, I have chosen this inconvenience of my own free will. However, the voice echoing in the void is nothing more than the echo of the cage. In the front row of the auditorium, I chomp on irony instead of popcorn. I watch the passionate performance of the actors on the stage with wide-awake eyes. I didn't clap, I didn't shout. I just remained quiet and aloof, not even a step out of this fortress of translucent loneliness. Perhaps I did not want to find a way out of it from the beginning. I did not know, or perhaps I knew that its brilliance would allow even my own shadow to shine through. In the space between day and night, where fragments of falsehood in the twilight drift by, the wandering of existence quietly changes its form, and the truth, like a grain of sand in my hand, is left to the play of the wind. The shadow that casually falls, smiling at its own contradiction in the silent mystery, wanders through the labyrinth of time and space, meeting the irony lurking inside of itself. As fleeting as the hazy moon, but never losing its firm brilliance, he plays a clever play on words online between truth and falsehood. A refreshingly cold smile and a graceful anguish invite us to smile at the myriad shimmering fractured destinies. Embracing all contradictions, it dyes our mental landscape with whispers of soft but sharp paradoxes. What is not is, what would be is done. And if you are caught in this eccentric banquet, please surrender to its uncertain and sweet reality. The wind does not back up the thought, but it is like the day the world laughed for the first time. Leisurely, as if it were the day the world laughed for the first time. The assumption contains the joke, and the ridiculousness is always transparent and piercing in its own way. When the folds of ideas hold venom like crystal, reason is as silent as an operating table that has finished dissecting everything. But even that tranquility is a parody of something. The moment you say, "it has meaning," you fall into a cage of meaning. But if you say, "there is no meaning," even the meaninglessness sprouts a context. Words are defiant or just a play on the wind that pretends to be a capricious god. When aloof contemplation tells a lie so pure, I have learned that beauty dwells in its lucid deception. The more one digs for the truth, the more there is only the sound of water. I listen intently to the lingering sound as if someone laughed or cried.